All right, now remember the first thing I told you we're going to do is we're going to come in here with a pry bar. You're going to put it in the back right through here until it protrudes out through this side, and you just keep slight pressure, just like that, and it pushes the piston back into the bore as far as it'll go. And then we'll go in the back over here and push it in the rest of the way, just like that. All right, so now our piston and brake pad is recessed in as far as it can go. We're going to take off the 14mm bolt in the back here. Now we're just going to put this off to the side for now. We will come back and lubricate this later. We'll spin the caliper itself down like this. Take our brake pad out here. And take our brake pad out here as well. And now in the back, remember those two bolts I told you about in the back, the 19mm? They are extremely tight, so we're going to break it loose with this breaker bar. Now, let me just show you this real quick here. So now we broke that bolt loose right there with the breaker bar. So that's broken loose. But that bolt right there, you see here? You can't get in there with a breaker bar because it's actually hitting right into that, you see? But we need to take that caliper mounting bracket off. So what we're going to do is you come in here with a wrench. Let me just put this up like this for now so you can see. We're going to put the wrench on that bolt just like this. And if you try to pull on this, this thing is so tight you can't break that loose unless you're Hercules, but it's really tight. But what I'm going to show you how to do now, let's see if you can see this. Okay, what you're going to do now is you're going to take your 18mm, you have your 19mm on there, put this on here like that, and now you have the additional leverage to break it loose, like that. And now you can break it loose and take it right out. All right, so we're going to fold this back down now. We're going to use our ratcheting wrench to take those bolts out up on the top now. But the key is that when you put these wrenches together, you put it together like this, and that will increase your leverage and get that to break loose. You're not going to get a 19mm wrench, not that long that I'm aware of anyway. But this will give you a lot more leverage and make the job a lot easier, especially when you're, you know, really tight. All right? Now, you can see I'm using the ratcheting wrench. It makes it a little bit easier. If you don't have a ratcheting wrench, it doesn't matter. You can use anything that you have, as long as you can get it out. Now you want to definitely hold on to these bolts. You don't want to lose them because you're going to absolutely need to reuse these later on. Now normally you wouldn't take this bolt out all the way unless the bottom one was broken loose already. So if you broke them both loose, you're okay. So we're going to put this on the side for now, and then we're going to take out the other bolts. Like I said, there's a washer on there. Make sure you don't lose it. Now we're going to take this And we're just going to take this like this, and we'll pull this off just like that, because this is the piece that we need to address. So we're just going to get a rag with some brake cleaner on it, clean off any kind of dirty grease or whatever there's on there, and we're going to put this off to the side for now. Now this one sits right up on top here without a problem, but if it didn't, you could use a hook such as this to actually get in here like that and secure it up out of the way. But we don't need it in this case because we have our own little shelf right here for it to sit on. Now we're going to take this rotor off here. These usually come off, we just tap it a couple of times and we should be able to pop that off. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, you can see it's a little tight. We're going to put this pry bar in the back up against the mounting bracket that the caliper bracket mounted to. We're going to put it right up against the ear that this connects to. So we're going to put this on here like this, and then I'm going to take this hammer and I'm going to hit it right there to break it loose. So let me get you back a little further here. All right, ready? A little bit of pressure pulling out and tap it. And it comes right out. Let me just get you set up over here again. Okay. And then we take this off just like that. Now, remember we talked about this piece right here? We need to push that out. And the way you do that is just take a screwdriver like this, go into the back over here, and you push it out just like that, and we're going to keep this. Okay. Now, before we put our rotor back on, I just want to point this out to you. The reason that that hole is right there is because we need to get into this piece right here. This is the star adjuster for the parking brakes. Let's put this rotor down for a minute. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the drum on, or the rotor I should say, which is actually partially a drum. And we're going to come in here with this tool, a screwdriver or whatever you have, and we're going to adjust this piece here up and down as needed to make that drum tight up against, I should say make the brake pads tighter up against the inner part of the rotor. All right? Now, before you do that though, we're going to come in here and this part right here, if there's any rust on here, this rust needs to come off. So this, you can see, is extremely rusty. We're going to come in here with a disc and we're going to clean this up here. And once we have this cleaned up, then we'll come back. All right, let me show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a disc such as this to clean it up. If you don't have a disc, you can use a scraper, you can use another scraper, you can use emery cloth, whatever you have to clean it up, you can use. So as long as this surface is clean, we'll be in good shape. So let me clean this up and then we'll come right back. Okay, now once you have this cleaned up, we're going to take our rotor and we're going to put it on just like this. And then we're going to adjust that star up in the top so we have a slight drag on the rotor. And now we have slight drag on the rotor, so the rotor is now on the way it's supposed to be. We're going to put that little tab back in there. Just like that. And just push it right back in. And that's it. All right, so that's on perfectly now. All right, next thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about this right here. These clips here have to come off. We're going to replace these with new ones. Any kind of rust that you have inside here, you'll need to clean that off at this point. We just pull this clip out as well. Just like that. And now we're going to clean up this area right inside here. Now, okay, if you have a wire wheel, you'll clean it up with a wire wheel. If you don't have a wire wheel, you use a file, or you can use sandpaper, whatever you have, but you need to clean up all that rust that's inside here, just like this here. You want to clean that all off nice and clean. This way, this way, this way, and also right inside here. So I'm going to take this over on the bench. I'm going to clean this up, and once I have it cleaned up, I'm going to come back and we'll continue. Okay, so once you have it all cleaned up, you're going to take a very little bead of grease, just like this, and you're going to put it on this mounting bracket where your hardware kit is going to attach, just like that. And we're going to take our hardware, we're going to put it over the top just like this, and we're going to push it down until it snaps in where it belongs, just like that. Okay? Now, if you're not sure if it's in all the way, you could take a screwdriver and just tap it down just to make sure it's in. Make sure your tabs are in right there. I don't know if you can see that. Make sure that your tabs are lined up. Let's see. Can you see that? Right there. Make sure they're in all the way. All right, same thing on this one here. We're going to take these, put it over the top. Those are the tabs I'm talking about right there. Put it over the top and just push it down. All right. You're not sure if it's in all the way. Tap it in just like that. All right, now, so this now is pretty much done. We're just going to put a little bit of silicone here where the brake pad is going to touch, just like that. Right? You don't need a lot, just a little bit. All right, now, we're going to take our brake pads and we're going to put the brake pads into the mounting bracket. Now, you can put these brake pads into the mounting bracket now, or you could put it in later, whatever works for you, but I'm going to show you how they go. Just like this, and that's how the brake pad is going to go, just like that. Now these should slide nice and freely back and forth. If they don't slide freely in here, then you must have some more rust inside there, and you'll need to clean that rust off. It's imperative that these brakes slide nice and free, just the way they are right now. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with a binding issue, and you're going to have a pulsating brake pedal. All right, so that one, you could put it in either now, or you could put it in later on. So let me just show you the inner pad. Okay, now the inner brake pad, there's different brake pads on this particular vehicle. This one here, as you can see, this piece here is what they call a disc indicator. This disc indicator goes on the other side, not on this side. This one only has the indicator on the one side, the right side rear. The left side rear does not have it. All right, I'm going to take the brake pad here like this, and you can see it goes in just like that. That's how the brake pads go. Okay, now like I said, you could do this later or you could do it now, whatever works for you. I am going to put these down on the side for now because they're going to be a little bit difficult to do because of the mounting bracket going back together. Okay, now before we put this back together, we're just going to put a little bit of silicone on this pin here. Remember, we cleaned this up before, just like this. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. And now remember, the mounting bracket, it was that pin was on the bottom, so we're going to put it back together just like this. Right? And now we'll put this in here. And we're just going to hold this temporarily, just like that. And now we're going to put our bolts in and we're going to catch them both loosely. It's very important that you catch both of the bolts by a couple of threads before you try to tighten anything up. Otherwise, if you try to tighten it, you're going to wind up with one of the bolts being a little bit off, and you're not going to get it to screw in. All right, so now we're going to tighten it up. I'm just going to move this out of the way for now. I just want to point this out to you. There is torque specs on those 19mm bolts on there. So let me look it up. I'm going to torque them, and then we're going to come right back. Okay, so now we have everything torqued on with the mounting bracket. We're going to put our brake pads back into there as we had them before, and just slide right in like that, and like that. Let's put the light over here so you can see. Like that. Now, any place that is going to touch up against this brake pad here, we're going to lubricate. So the back of the piston right here, we're going to lubricate that, because otherwise you may get a little bit of a squeaking noise when it applies. Just a little bit. The tabs right here that are going to touch into it as well. So now we lubricated the piston here, and we lubricated these outer parts here. Now we're going to lift this up like this. We're going to grab the other bolt, but we're going to get some new gloves first. Okay. It's nice when you take your gloves off, you throw them away, you put a new pair on, and you're good to go again. Okay. Now, we took this bolt out before, remember? And we sprayed this rag with some brake cleaner, and we're going to clean off all of the grease, the old grease that's on this bolt. And we're going to put a little bit. Now you see this has a rubber on there. We don't want to put any grease on this end of the rubber, on that side of it, because otherwise you'll wind up with an air block inside there, and you'll push this in, it'll push right back out. So put the grease on this portion here and this part of the rubber, just a little bit. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. This will keep it from freezing up at all or rusting up, and it'll make it slide nice and easy. So now we're going to push our caliper over the top of the mounting bracket. We're just going to push that little rubber boot right there around, just so we can get it over it. We're going to push this in here. Now we're going to take our ratchet and we're going to tighten that bolt up. Sometimes that bolt's a little tight to get in, but if you just keep pressure on it, it'll tighten right up. This is why I like this angled ratchet, because you can turn it at all different angles. Okay, that's nice and tight. Now what I always do, even though we didn't loosen up that 14mm bolt right there, always check it to make sure it's tight, just to play it safe. And that's it. This side is finished. So let's just talk about what we did. Okay. All right, so what we did is we cleaned up the face where the rotor is going to go, make sure all the rust was off of there, which we did. We put our rotor on, we adjusted our parking brake with that little screwdriver, remember, through this little notch here. After we have it adjusted, we put that back in there, that little plug, to keep any kind of water or debris from going in there. We put our new hardware on the mounting bracket right here. We cleaned off all of the rust, and we lubricated every place that the hardware kit is going to mount to, both on top of it and below it where the brake pad goes. We lubricated everywhere the brake pad goes. We tightened up that millimeter, that 19mm, and that 19mm. We torqued them in place. We put our brake pads in. We lubricated everywhere that the brake pad is going to touch, including the piston back in there. And we tightened up our two 14mm bolts. That's it. The back is done. All right, so.